Jerry Michael Mike Williams was born on October 16th, 1969 in Tallahassee, Leon County, Florida, to Jerry and Cheryl Williams. According to the Tallahassee Democrat, Mike was raised in Bradfordville, just north of Tallahassee, in a double-wide trailer alongside his older brother Nick. Their parents, a Greyhound bus driver and a daycare provider, chose to save money rather than build a house, ensuring that both sons could attend North Florida Christian High School. To contribute, the boys worked night shifts at supermarkets. During his time at school, Mike thrived, serving as student council president, playing football, and actively participating in the Key Club. At 15, he took up duck hunting as a hobby and formed a connection with fellow student Denise Merrill. After graduating from North Florida Christian, Mike attended Florida State University, where he studied political science and urban planning. Before earning his degree, he secured a job as a property appraiser with Ketchum Appraisal Group, where the company's owner described him as, quote, the hardest working man I ever saw. Following his 1994 marriage to Denise Merrill, Mike maintained a demanding schedule, often returning to work after dinner and even heading to the office after early morning duck hunting. According to Mike's mother, Cheryl, he was earning approximately $200,000 annually. He and Denise purchased a home in the upscale neighbourhood on Tallahassee's east side. In 1999, the couple welcomed their only child, a daughter, to whom Mike was deeply devoted. The next year, his father passed away, and he confided in his mother about wanting $50,000 to take a year off. That same year, the couple secured a $1 million life insurance policy on Mike through Brian Winchester, a childhood acquaintance of Denise who had also become one of Mike's closest friends. On December 14th, 2000, a Thursday, Mike and Denise shared with his mother and brother, Nick, that they were hoping to have another child soon. His mother later recalled that in 2001, the couple had planned a spring cruise to Hawaii, and later that year, Mike had planned a work-related trip to Jamaica. In the early hours of the 16th of December 2000, 31-year-old Mike left home on the 5,000 block of Centennial Oak Circle to go duck hunting on Lake Seminole, Florida. Lake Seminole is a vast reservoir situated about 50 miles or 80 kilometres northwest of Tallahassee. It lies in southwestern Georgia, near the Florida border, where three streams converge to create the Apalachicola River. According to his wife, Denise, Mike had promised to return by noon so they could celebrate their 6th wedding anniversary that evening at the Gibson Inn in Apalachicola. Denise contacted her father to inform him that Mike had not come home. 6 hours later, an extensive search effort was launched. Law enforcement, along with friends and family, scoured the area, as reported by Jennifer Portman of the Tallahassee Democrat. Meanwhile, Mike's best friend, Brian Winchester, and his father headed to the areas of Lake Seminole, where they knew Mike often hunted. They discovered his 1994 Ford Bronco parked near a secluded boat ramp in Jackson County. Authorities from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, known as the FFWCC, were notified, prompting an official search. However, the effort was soon halted due to an incoming storm. Search efforts concentrated on a 10-acre or 4-hectare section of the lake near the cove where Mike's truck was discovered. A helicopter pilot spotted his boat about 225 feet or 69 metres from the ramp, initially mistaking it for a search vessel. When investigators recovered the boat, they found Mike's shotgun still inside its case, but no trace of Mike himself. Authorities speculated that he may have struck a stump, fallen overboard, and been unable to stay afloat after his waders filled with water, leading to his drowning in depths of 8 to 12 feet, or 2.4 to 3.7 meters. Typically, drowning victims resurface within 3 to 7 days, though the cold front following the storm could have delayed this process. Despite these expectations, no body was ever found. After 10 days of searching, a camouflage hunting hat was discovered, but there was no way to link it to Mike. The search efforts persisted until early February of 2001, when they were officially suspended. Investigators believed that Mike had perished in a hunting accident and had accidentally fallen from the boat and subsequently drowned. Detectives also believed that Mike had been consumed by alligators once he fell in the lake. However, this was later disproved, as it was learned that alligators brumate in the winter, which is a state of dormancy, and therefore do not eat during the season as the temperatures are too low. Furthermore, if alligators had eaten a human, there would have been evidence of remains. According to the Charlie Project, all other drowning victims in Lake Seminole have been recovered from the depths. Denise Williams, who had stayed out of the media spotlight during the search for her husband, ultimately accepted Mike's death. She arranged a memorial service for him the day after the search concluded. In June 2001, an angler in the Stump Field area found a pair of waders floating in the lake. Divers later recovered a lightweight hunting jacket and a flashlight from the lake bed. Inside the jacket, they found a hunting license bearing Mike's name and signature. However, the waders showed no signs of damage or teeth marks, and none of the items appeared to have been in the water long enough to be linked to Mike's disappearance. This, in particular, struck detectives as odd, and it seemed likely that these items had been planted in the lake. No DNA evidence, however, was found connecting the clothing to him. 6 months after Mike's vanishing and presumed death, his wife Denise obtained a death certificate. Despite the inconsistencies in the case, a Leon County judge granted Denise's petition to have Mike declared legally dead, based on the recovered items and the assumption that alligators or other wildlife had consumed his body. This ruling allowed Denise to claim Mike's $1.5 million life insurance payout. 5 years later, Denise married Brian Winchester, Mike's best friend, who had sold Mike some of the life insurance policies before his disappearance. The couple moved into the same home where Denise and Mike had lived together. Seol Williams, Mike's mother, never accepted the theory that her son had been eaten by alligators or that his death was accidental. Driven by a strong sense of intuition, she felt something was wrong and was determined to be heard. Over the course of 9 years, she compiled 27 pages of detailed notes and evidence, writing daily to the governor of Florida. She also reached out to wildlife experts, who informed her that alligators do not typically feed during the colder winter months. There have been suggestions that Mike Williams staged his disappearance and left his life in Florida behind, but detectives consider foul play to be a more probable explanation. In an August 2016 Fox News article, Seol Williams remarked, quote, "They're the only two people that profited from Mike's disappearance," referring to her daughter-in-law Denise and Brian Winchester. Seol Williams told WCTV, quote, "Until God tells me in my heart that that child is dead, I cannot give up looking for him." Seol has shared that she received threats aimed at stopping her from probing into her son's disappearance. Over the following years, she continued her investigation while managing a daycare at her home. She took out ads in local newspapers and placed billboards to gather information. All the subsequent investigations into the case stemmed from her relentless efforts. Many officers shared Cheryl's belief that the circumstances surrounding Mike's apparent drowning were suspicious and didn't align with the conclusion that he had simply drowned. The boat launch where Mike's Bronco was found was an undeveloped, muddy area, though nearby were well-established concrete ramps he had used in the past to launch his boat. Additionally, the storm the night after Mike went missing brought westerly winds that should have pushed the boat, which was left unmoored, across the lake towards Georgia, not leaving it where it was found. When the boat was recovered, the engine was switched off, yet the fuel tank was full. A representative from the boat's manufacturer explained that if the engine had been running when Mike allegedly fell out, as investigators speculated, the boat would have continued running in circles until the fuel ran out. Quote, "Something sounds fishy on that deal," the representative remarked. Investigators also found that Mike typically did not hunt alone. In 2008, authorities told the media that they were looking into a potential link in the case to insurance fraud. In 2012, Denise and Brian Winchester separated, with reports citing his alleged sex addiction as a contributing factor. Denise filed for divorce in 2015, but Brian initially resisted and was eventually compelled by the court to comply. As part of the legal proceedings, he was required to submit an appraisal of their home, with the deadline set for early August of 2016. On August 5th, 2016, Brian Winchester ambushed Denise in her car, held her at gunpoint, and claimed he planned to take his own life over their divorce. She managed to calm him down and took him back to his truck, but afterwards she went straight to the police. Investigators later learned Brian feared Denise might expose what she knew about Mike Williams' disappearance. He was arrested and charged with kidnapping, domestic assault, and armed burglary. Denise sought protection orders, and Brian was held without bond. Seol Williams hoped his arrest would finally bring answers, saying, quote, "He's not going to let Denise run around alone with all that money. I'm praying he'll tell us what actually happened." In December 2017, Brian Winchester was sentenced to 20 years in prison for kidnapping, with credit for time served, followed by 15 years of probation. His lawyer argued for a reduced sentence, citing his mental state due to personal struggles, while prosecutors pushed for the 45-year maximum, believing he had planned a murder. He is currently imprisoned at Wakulla Correctional Institution. The day after Brian Winchester's sentencing, Mark Perez, the FDLE's special agent in charge, held a press conference, revealing that Mike Williams' body had been found, and it was confirmed he was the victim of a homicide. However, authorities withheld details about how he was killed, potential suspects, or the location of the body, stating only the perpetrators would know that information. Later, the FDLE disclosed that Mike's remains had been found at the end of Gardner Road in northern Leon County, about 5 miles from Mike's hometown of Tallahassee, where he grew up on Bull Headley Road. On May 8, 2018, Denise Williams was arrested outside Florida State University just after finishing work and minutes before celebrating her daughter's 19th birthday. She was indicted by a grand jury on charges of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and accessory after the fact. After Denise Williams was arrested, the FDLE revealed they had received a tip on the body's location in early October of 2017. Public Works employees, under the guise of a training exercise, spent 5 days digging 9 feet deep holes at the lake, holding back water with dams and pumps. On October 18th, search dogs and officers finally discovered Mike Williams' remains in the dirt piles. 98% of his bones were recovered, along with some clothing, and DNA tests confirmed the remains were his through a match with his mother, Cheryl's, DNA. Brian Winchester, Denise's estranged husband, was serving his sentence at Wakulla Correctional Institution near Tallahassee. His attorney stated that Brian would testify at trial if required, but did not believe he would face charges in the case. Prosecutors argued that Denise had begun conspiring with Brian in March 2000, 9 months before her first husband's disappearance. They alleged Brian killed Mike with a gun, and the accessory charge suggested that Denise helped him evade prosecution or arrest between August of 2014 and Brian's sentencing. Denise's lawyer filed a plea of not guilty on behalf of his client. In late June of 2018, Denise Williams was ordered to be held without bond, with her trial scheduled for September 24th. During the court proceedings, audio from Brian Winchester's interview with the FDLE was played, in which he confessed to killing Mike Williams, but claimed the idea came from Denise. Denise's defence argued the tape should not be used as evidence since Winchester had not been charged with a crime despite his admission, while the prosecution stated they simply wanted him to tell the truth. Denise's trial began in December. The prosecution revealed that Denise and Brian had rekindled their relationship and discussed killing Mike so they could marry, due to her family's religious opposition to divorce. Plans for a boating accident and a staged robbery were considered, but rejected, before Brian suggested staging a hunting accident, inspired by an incident in Arkansas where he had saved Mike from quicksand. On the day Mike Williams disappeared, Brian Winchester claimed he lured Mike to Lake Seminole, got him to put on waders, and pushed him into the water, hoping he would drown. When Mike managed to reach a tree stump, Brian shot him in the face. Unable to pass off Mike's death as an accident, Brian buried the body, cleaned his truck, and attended a family Christmas party. He and Denise delayed their actions to allow the insurance money to gather interest and to avoid suspicion. Brian, fearing Denise would reveal the truth after their divorce, later kidnapped her in 2016. He received immunity from prosecution for his role in the murder in exchange for leading investigators to Mike's body and confessing. Denise's defence argued there was no physical evidence linking her to the crime and that the murder had been Brian's idea. After 4 days of testimony, Denise was convicted of all charges. In February 2019, she was sentenced to life in prison, with Mike's mother, Seol Williams, speaking in court to say justice had been served. 5 months later, Mike and Denise's daughter received the estate and insurance proceeds after Denise signed them over to avoid prosecution for insurance fraud. In January 2020, Denise Williams appealed her life sentence, claiming there was no evidence linking her to the murder. In November of 2020, the Florida 1st District Court of Appeal overturned her murder conviction but upheld her conviction for conspiracy to commit murder, maintaining the 30-year sentence. In April 2021, Florida's Attorney General appealed the reversal to the state's Supreme Court, citing conflicting legal precedents. However, the Supreme Court declined to hear the appeal. Denise is now serving her sentence at the Florida Women's Reception Center. Mike Williams was buried in Roselawn Cemetery, with the headstone inscription reading, quote, "Loving father, loving son, loving brother, born October 16, 1969, murdered December 16, 2000, buried September 8, 2018. Jennifer Portman from the Tallahassee Democrat stated, quote, "If not for Seol Williams, there's no way that we would know where Mike Williams was or anything that ever happened to him. She was the driving force." At Denise's trial, Seol stated, quote, "For the rest of my life, when I try to go to sleep, I see my son clinging to a stump in the freezing water. Please don't show her any mercy. She didn't show my son any mercy. She took him away from his daughter, family, and friends." Following Denise's sentencing, she concluded, quote, "Michael has justice. I've been so afraid that she would get out. I believe he can rest in peace now.